Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I am your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you, Jordan Woodworth, Chelsea, and Susie, for help putting the show together tonight. And thank you, the viewers at home, who are joining us to watch. The starting line is, of course, sponsored by Motion Pro. Jordan, what do we got coming up on the show tonight? The next time try this segment, I'm going to give you a nice tip on how to mount a bracket on your number plates. In the Moto Showcase, we take a look at a 1969 CZ250 side piper. Here's the problem. We've got a couple of them coming up. One of them involves brakes. We're going to be talking more about that. What's it worth? 1983 CR250. Real nice bike. I'm looking forward to telling you more about it. 522 project continues. We're going to have a nice video for you on that as well. Don't forget to share the show. If you're on Facebook, share it with your friends. Tell them to come down and watch a few episodes of Vintage Motocross Q&A with you. Also, we are live on YouTube. Every show, all 52 episodes, plus all of our interview shows are available in HD. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you do, you're going to get a little bell that comes on. It's going to tell you that we're live on YouTube. Please subscribe. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Preston Petty Products, Nightmare Racing, Vinco, Motion Pro, Full Circle, and Amsoil. This week's Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. There are a couple of different ways you can attach number plates to your race bike. Some guys use zip ties. Other people use some kind of rubber strap. I'm going to show you a little trick that I like to use today. It involves pop rivets and a bracket like this. And when you get done, you're going to have a real factory look that looks a lot like this. I've done it with the number plate background on already. If you want to, I would advise that you also, after the number plate background, you put your numbers on, or if you have pre-printed backgrounds, put it all on before you do what I'm going to show you right now. What you're going to need are a couple of rivets like this, a rivet gun, like I have here, and of course, a drill. And it's really pretty simple after that. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. The first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that the bracket for the number plate is in the center of the plate. Now, you may be putting it on a square plate. You may be putting it on something that's oval. Take some measurements and get it as close to the middle as possible. And of course, equal distance off the sides as well. Take a Sharpie and mark those holes. With a drill bit that is slightly bigger than the rivets, you're going to want to drill those holes. In this case, I used rivets that were 1/4 inch in diameter by 7/16 in depth. When you go to a hardware store, you may find a couple of different sizes. Those are the ones that I prefer. They're a little bit bigger. I think they look nicer. Carefully drill right through your number plate and make sure you put something under it to protect your workbench or whatever you're drilling on. In this case, I happen to use styrofoam. After you get your holes drilled, you want to put your rivet through the one side, then put your mounting bracket on the other. In this case, because I had to hold it with one hand, I used the bench as something to hold the other side of my pop rivet gun. Push down on it a couple of times, pop, there you go, the rivet's in. You do the same thing for the second one, and there you have it. A really nice looking bracket that goes across the back of your number plate, and we'll hold it on there securely. Well, that's my tip for this week on Next Time Try This. Thanks, Vinco. And there it is. It looks just like that. In the Moto Showcase tonight, we have a 1969 CZ250 side piper that was sent in to us by Fred Brock. This segment is, of course, sponsored by FastGuyStuff.com. Fred said he'd wanted one of these bikes for a while, and he went out to visit a friend, and he asked a friend if he wanted to sell the bike. Well, on his way home, he hadn't stopped thinking about it. He said it took him about 2 hours. When he got home, his friend had called him and said that he would part with it, and they agreed on a price. Fred took the bike, and here it is, a 69 250 side piper. He said it was a bike that he'd always wanted. He'd raced it a few times. It's in real nice original shape. And Fred, I want to thank you for sending in that 69 CZ 250 side piper to us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Send me your address, Fred. I will get you a nice sticker pack compliments of FastGuyStuff.com. And if anybody else who's watching the show right now wants to have their bike put on the show, please inbox me and we'll find a space for it. The other day, I put up an ad that we needed bikes for the showcase, for the Moto Showcase. So many people sent them in. And I'm looking forward in the future to showing bikes from James Chapanel, Larry Manning, Alistair Morrison, Jeff Young, Doug Robinson, and Shane Kuntz. They're all having bikes up here at the Moto Showcase, and they're going to be getting some stickers from fastguysstuff.com. And here's the problem segment. We take a look at a few questions we had come in this week. Some of them I found very interesting. Jordan, what do we have up first? Rob Margella, thanks for sharing the tip on how to repack a silencer. I cut it open as you suggested, repacked it, and welded it closed. It weighs about a pound less without the oil-soaked fiberglass in it, and it's far quieter. Rob Margella also apologized for not taking pictures of the silencer. Here it is. He just has it when it was completed. But Rob, it's always nice to know that we give some advice here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. People follow up with it, try it for themselves at home, and they get great results, much like you did right here. Thanks for checking back in with us to tell us that it worked out for you, Rob Margella. Sal Scarpa III, leaded gas, unleaded gas, race fuels, premix ratios. What are your thoughts on this? Well, Sal, I'll tell you. There's no such thing as leaded gas at the pumps anymore. I think that ended around 1995. So you can't buy leaded fuel. What a lot of people do use is VP 110, or there are pumps at in certain places where they do sell race gas. What I would recommend, and it's what I do, is I buy 5 gallons of VP, or I go buy a couple of gallons of race gas at the pump, and then I mix it with the highest octane possible pump gas. Sunoco has a really good high octane pump gas. There are a few of them out there at 92 or 93. So, as you know, race gas can be very expensive. So, I mix a gallon of pump fuel with a gallon of race gas, and I use a quality premix oil. I like to use AMS oil. I find it to be a really, really great oil that I can run at 40, even 50 to 1. Something I want you to keep in mind here. A lot of people have different bikes. I, for one, used to go away on weekends and race vintage and post-vintage. And with a group back in New Jersey, American Classic Racing, they even had vintage 80s and vintage 90s. I had 1 can of gas, the way you see it here. 1 can of 50% pump gas, 50% race gas, and 40 to 1 with AMS oil like this. I use the same gas in all the bikes. Take the time to jet your bikes if you're running 2 or 3 different bikes at races. You shouldn't have to run around with 2 or 3 different cans of different mixtures. You should be able to jet the bike accordingly with 1 can of gas, of course, in your 2 strokes, not your 4 strokes. 1 can of gas like that, you should be able to run all your bikes. That's my suggestion on that. Sal Scarpa, thanks for the question. Nick Mamola, Joe, can you discuss some tips on making vintage brakes work better? Well, yes, Nick, I can. And there's a couple of basic things, but they're pretty important. And the first thing I want to mention to you is something that one of our viewers, Robert Oscar Pomeroy, sent in to me a couple of weeks ago. If you look at the way this brake actuator is on this hub, it's tilted down a little bit. What you want to do is that when your brake is fully engaged on the front, that actuator should be 90 degrees. It should be straight across when you have it mounted. Now, depending on where the spline is, you can't always get it perfect that way, but you want to get it as close as you can to 90 degrees when you have that mounted on your bike. Next slide, Jordan. Here are some other things I want to tell you about, Nick. Number one, you want to buy a quality cable. A lot of bikes through the years, people have changed cables on them. Maybe you bought a used bike. Make sure you got the right cable on there. I would advise you get a cable from Motion Pro. It's a great quality cable, good harness, good steel. The ends are really strong. Get a good cable on the front. Make sure it's not too long or too short. The right length cable is really, really important to the brake working correctly. Another thing you could do is get yourself a good set of brake pads like you see here. Now, these happen to come with those grooves cut in them. That really, really dissipates the moisture. It gets the water out of the hub when you're using it. Also, it keeps the dust off of the pad itself when it's going around and hitting the outside of your hub, or what's the word I'm looking for? Surface, the brake surface of your hub. So there's 2 things. Another tip I'd like to give you here, if you look down there in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a shouldered bolt and a nut with a nylock on it, with that little plastic in there. You want to use that, and I'll tell you why. You can tighten that nut just so tight, but still have enough play and enough movement in your lever and your perch. Make sure you put some grease in there too, or some good lubricants. A lot of guys use like a nut with a lock washer, and they tighten it up there, and it starts to pinch it, it starts to bind the lever, either on the clutch or on the brake. So I would always recommend using a nylon nut like that with a really good quality shouldered bolt. This way you could just tighten it just enough that you get a lot of play, not play, but it moves freely in the perch. Another thing you really want to keep your eye on is the cam actuator like that is inside your hub. You want to make sure that there's a good fit on the brake plate. If it's too tight, it's going to drag. If it's too loose, it could bind. It's not going to work as smoothly as it should. You also want to put a good quality grease on that shoulder where it sits through the brake plate, as well as on the cam itself. Now, we talked about grease a couple of weeks ago. AMSOIL makes a variety of them. You want to get one that isn't going to melt so easy under heat. That could cause a big problem in your brake drum. If it starts to get hot, the viscosity of the grease is going to wear down. It's going to break down. That's how you get oil on your brake surface and on your brake shoes. So use the right grease when you're greasing that cam up. Get yourself some good shoes, a quality cable, and take my advice on that shoulder bolt too with the nylon nut. Nick Mamola, thanks for sending in that question to us. We're going to take a commercial break right here. Don't forget to share and comment AMSOIL if you're watching on YouTube. We will be picking a winner toward the end of the show who's going to get a great product from AMSOIL. In fact, they have their choice of all the AMSOIL products that we have on hand. So don't forget to share it. Jordan, let's take a look at that commercial.
Hi guys, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing to you the world's first non-leaking cable luber. You heard me right. Non-leaking cable luber. Motion Pro has designed a very ingenious tool. It's very simple to use. There's two halves and a rubber grommet that seals the canister around the cable. By connecting the two halves together, you create a compression fit. Now once that's tight, you insert the straw for your cable lube. Of course, I'm going to recommend Motion Pro's very best cable lube. You insert the straw in the end of the cable luber. You fill the fluid into the canister. And there's nowhere else for the fluid to go but into the cable. It's quick, it's clean, it's affordable at $19.99, available from your retailers nationwide. Motion Pro Cable Luber V3, get it today. Keep your cables fresh.
Pro, and next week I'm going to be talking to you about this little guy right here. It's a fork seal remover. I'm going to be telling you all about it on the next show. In the What's It Worth segment, we take a look at a 1983 Honda CR250 that recently sold on eBay. $3,450. I'll tell you a little bit about the bike. This segment is, of course, sponsored by Preston Petty Products. This bike was complete nut and bolt restoration. I bought it as a complete bike and finished it just a few years ago. The bike has VMX plastic, an 81 aluminum clutch cover, and water pump housing, as opposed to the stock magnesium cover. It also has V-force reeds and an FMF pipe. I've also installed a PVL ignition on it. It has a Mikuni VM round slide carburetor, a PBI chain and sprockets, and Outlaw clutch and perch levers. I stripped the frame down to the bare metal. I painted it the original flash red like it was from the factory with a single stage enamel that he mixed myself, and he used the urethane clear to cover it. I tried to restore it and make it look as closely as it could to a factory bike, and I think I succeeded in doing that. It runs really great, and it sold for just $3,450. And I say just $3,450 because with all that work, including the new plastic, the paint, the rebuilt engine, the pipe, the tires are great on the bike, $3,450 is a really, really good deal on this bike, I think. And that is, of course, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Once again, this week, Preston Petty Products has 10% off across the board on everything on their website. Front fenders, rear fenders, the integrated bracket fenders, the number plates, grips, hats, you name it, it's 10% off across the board. Inbox me for the code. I'll get it to you upon checkout. You'll get 10% off on everything you buy at Preston Petty Products. And Paul Stannard, generous guy that he is giving away a free T-shirt with every order from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Inbox me for the code, guys. You'll save 10% and get a free T-shirt. Welcome to the next installment of the 522 Project. This segment of the show is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Visit them online at fullcircleracing.limited.com. VMXQ&A.com. As you've seen from previous episodes, it is our quest, and we are continuing on that journey to replicate the 1974 RC 125 that Marty Smith rode to the inaugural 125cc National Championship. This week, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the airbox. In previous episodes, we showed you the difference between a stock airbox and this feathery light fiberglass airbox that we had made. This week, I'm going to show you a little bit more about the filter cage, how it all goes together, and it's going to fit in the frame. I'm going to put it all together right in front of you right now, and then we're going to get a shot of it in the frame. What I wanted to do was make sure everything fit properly before we put the thing together in its final stages. This air filter was laying in a bag. I had some oil on it, but it was just laying in there. We'll re-oil it when the time comes. The filter fit nicely in the cage. By the way, this filter happens to be from a Suzuki, and so is the filter cage. It all fit together real nicely, and it also comes with this wing nut with this long screw on it. You put that in, and inside the airbox itself is an aluminum flange that's molded in, and it's threaded. It's threaded, of course, to fit that wing nut. You can put the whole thing together. It all sits in there very securely. There you can see the filter from one side. It does fit in there really well. These two clamps that came with this other part, which is the air boot, the clamps are really nice. They're already plated with black zinc. The air boot is from actually a Mako, and we're going to need that because we're going to need some flexibility when we go to put our bigger carburetor on the back of that reed valve cylinder. So we discovered that a Mako air boot would work really well, give us a little flexibility when it comes time to putting that air boot over the back of the bell. That air boot fits on there real tight, real nicely. The clamp was absolutely a perfect fit. The other clamp, of course, we'll be putting into use once we get the carburetor in place. That's it for this segment of the 522 project. I again want to thank our sponsor, Full Circle Racing, for being a sponsor of this segment. Visit Full Circle Racing Limited online. For all your wheels and spokes, modern and vintage, Full Circle Racing is the place you want to go. Speaking of Full Circle Racing, they've got a really great special. We ran it last week. We're going to talk about it again this week. 19-inch rear, 21-inch front, black or silver. Retail for $290, but because you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and Tom McAllister is such a great guy, he's knocking off $50, $240. The offer expires October 31st. That's for black or silver, 19-inch and 21. It's available for Kawasaki's, Hondas, Suzuki's, Yamahas, CZs, Huskies, Makos, just about every vintage bike that's out there. So be sure to mention that you saw it here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. And I once again want to thank Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing for their support. In the product spotlight tonight from Vinco, we've got some Mako sintered bronze clutch plates. These are really, really great. They are designed to ensure smooth power delivery and fade-free performance. Their OEM part numbers are provided for a reference to ensure an exact fitment. These are sintered bronze clutch plates, and they are made by Vinco. It comes with 6 plates, 9 millimeters in width and 3 millimeters thick, with an 81 millimeter inside diameter. They are for 4 and 5-speed Makos, 69 to 81, some of the 440s, some of the 490s, and of course the 250. $149.95 from our good friends at Vinco. Keep the ride going. Nightmare Racing still running a real nice special, 10% off on all of their glossy black plastic. This is only for another couple of days. So if you're looking to put some glossy black Nightmare Racing plastic on your KX, now's the time to get a hold of Mark Hildebrand. You can inbox me for a code, or if you contact Mark directly, tell him that you saw it here on Vintage Motocross Q&A, you're going to get 10% off of that plastic from Nightmare Racing. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to share the show. If you're on Facebook, please share it with some friends. If you're watching it on YouTube, comment AMSOIL. When we get back, we're going to have a winner for an AMSOIL product.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
We do have a winner in our random share giveaway. It's sponsored by AMSOIL. The winner tonight is Mike Gillespie. Mike Gillespie. If you're watching, and I do believe you are because you shared the show, send me your address and I will give you some choices of whatever you would like, of whatever product that AMSOIL is making that we have here in stock. Mike Gillespie. On Facebook, he has Mike Glenn Marie Gillespie. Might have his wife's name included in there, which is always nice. Mike Gillespie, inbox me. We're going to get your product out to you. Compliments of AMSOIL. Thanks for sharing the show, Mike. This Week in Motocross History segment is sponsored by Nightmare Racing. We just talked about them a little while ago. In 1973, on a Friday night in Philadelphia, it would be the second ever stadium motocross under the lights. This was actually a Trans Am, and it was held in Philadelphia at JFK Stadium. Just 2 days later, there would be another Trans Am round in Coketown, Canada. The winner of that was Mako-mounted Garrett Wolsey. Just behind him was Adolf Veal and then Pierre Kosmarkers. The first American that night was Tim Hart from California, and that was in 1973. Only the second race ever under the lights, and it was a Trans Am indoors or in a stadium. In 1975, Trans Am opener at Road Atlanta was won by Bultaco-mounted Jim Pomeroy. 250cc Grand Prix contender had just returned from Italy, where he became the first American to win a moto at the Trophy des Nations, as well as the first man ever to take on guys like Harry Everett, Roger DeCoster, and all those people who were racing in Europe at that time. Jimmy was just getting over there. Of course, Brad Lackey had been there for a couple of years just before that. So Jim Pomeroy, on This Week in Motocross History, won the Trans Am opener at Redbud. What do we got next? All of the announcements. What do we got first, Jordan? Last week on VMX Radio, my guest was Joe Bonello, a great photographer, an amazing personality, really kind of an icon in the industry. Jordan's got a little soundbite for you here, and then I'm going to tell you more about my guest this week. There's an incredible picture here of Jay Leno, but I mean, this looks like a headshot for a nightclub thing or something.
On that.
Yeah, what?
I spent 90 seconds shooting that shot. If it was a studio, they would have spent 2 days on it. They would have had a hair and makeup girl. They would have had a stylist. They would have had 3 different lighting crews. They would have had his agent. I was doing a photo shoot for AMA magazine, and that was on the cover.
Yeah.
And his name is Grant Parsons, who I barely met, but he called me one day and goes, listen, can you take pictures of Jay Leno and his collection down in Burbank? No, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Yeah. But anyway, we went to his place in Burbank, California. And what it is 3 big giant warehouses. They're just industrial space. They're in a cul-de-sac. So if you went around there, you'd never know what was inside of them. Well, what's inside of them is tens of millions of dollars of cars and motorcycles. Mm-hmm. And it's row after row after row, building after building after building of stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to get a picture of him. So I go, come here. So I set up 2 lights, and he sat on kind of like a milk crate.
Yeah.
And I knocked off 4 shots to go bang, bang, bang. I already figured out, what the exposure was. So that's it. There's just a light on the right and a light on the left. And I go, I think you've done this a few times. He goes, yeah, I think I got it down. He's got a real dry sense of humor. I took a couple of light readings. I went boom. I looked at the back of the camera. It was perfect. And I took up 4 shots. And that was the cover shot of AMA magazine.
Joe Bonello was a fascinating guest last week on the show, this Sunday on Vintage Motocross Radio. My guest will be Executive Director of KTM North America, Selvaraj Narayana. Sel's journey into this country is absolutely fascinating. He began to work for Mako when he was just a teenager in the early 1970s, worked his way all the way up to the executive director at KTM. Now, if you're not familiar with the rungs of a ladder in the corporate world, the executive director of KTM is just under the president. The president of KTM, of course. I am really excited to be speaking to Sel Raj this Sunday at 11 a.m. on Vintage Motocross Radio. Got a nice race coming up. Tammy and Ralph Greenhill once again have the old school scrambles going this weekend, October 4th, another one October 12th. There's classes for everybody. And the really great thing is that Rod Lake will pay for anyone if it's their first time racing there at Glen Helen with this group. And kids always get to ride for free. Tammy and Ralph Greenhill, thank you for all you do. Get down there October 4th or October 11th for the old school scrambles. October 10th and 11th, if you're in the Northeast, there's an ARMA Northeast Vintage Cross Country and Motocross race. It's at Gears Farm. That's in Fulton, New York. You can contact Merritt Brown or Ed Roman. Go to the ARMA Northeast Facebook page or their website if you need more information. But there hasn't been much racing this year, so if you're out there in the Northeast, it's the absolute best time of the year to be up there in New York State. The leaves are changing. It's beautiful. Go to the ARMA Northeast website. Maybe you'll hit a vintage race up there in Fulton, New York in the next week. Scott Burnworth, boy, I'll tell you, the hardest working guy in all of motocross, I think. Scott Burnworth is going this week, or October 24th. MX Classic 11. This is the 11th year. Scott and Debbie will be putting on this race. They've got all kinds of sponsors, all sorts of prizes. And this year, for the first time, of course, there will be the Marty Smith Memorial Cup. Now, from what I understand, there's going to be a lot of other people at this race, and they're going to be racing in that Marty Smith Memorial Cup race, including Todd DeHoop, Rick Johnson, Tommy Croft, Warren Reed, Sean Kalos, Billy Urban, Jimmy Beecham, and many, many more. So, October 24th at Glen Helen, go support the burner for all he does with vintage motocross. October 24th. Go get the race with some of the pros there, too. It'll be a lot of fun. There is an ARMA National at the Bushy Ranch. That's coming up October 3rd and 4th, this weekend again. Again, not many races out there due to COVID, due to fires, but there is one this weekend at Bushy Ranch, and there is no cross country, unfortunately, due to the fire situation up there. But you could go up there and get a couple of motos in at Bushy Ranch, October 3rd and 4th. That's coming right up. There's only one Preston Petty autograph fender left. These are the first 5 that came off the press in 2016. There were 25 of them. 20 of them were given away to family members and close people in the industry. There were 5 left. Paul Stannard has made them available to us. There's only 1 left. Every week we've sold one. Inbox me. I'll tell you more about how to get the last one that is available. There is a letter of authenticity that comes with it. All proceeds go directly toward Preston Petty himself. They're $150. There's only 1 left. Inbox me. I'll tell you how to get a hold of one. People have been inboxing me who did receive one, and they absolutely love it. It's a great collector's item. The first 5 that ever came off the press in 2016. There's only 1 left. Now's the time. As we mentioned last week, we are giving away a 1983 Honda CR250. This is an unrestored bike. It is in incredibly excellent condition. And we're going to be giving it away here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. After some careful thought, I decided the time to do it would be December 23rd, which happens to fall on a Wednesday. Somebody's going to have a very Merry Christmas come December 23rd. Now, here's how to enter. You're going to email us right there at that Gmail address, vmxqalive@gmail.com. You will receive a drawing number from me. Once you get that number, you're going to save it. I'm going to have the number. I'm going to have a little envelope just like this. I'm going to put your number inside that envelope. It's going to go in a clear plastic tub right back here. And they're going to keep coming in. And that's all you have to do to get involved in this drawing. There's no money. It's not a fundraiser. I'm not asking you to spend 10 cents. However, it will be your responsibility, should you win the bike, to have it shipped. That is up to you. So drop us an email, vmxqalive@gmail.com. I will get you a number. You're going to save that number. You're going to email it back to me. I'm going to put it in an envelope. We're going to put it in a clear box right back here. December 23rd, somebody's going to win a 1983 Honda CR 250. All of our sponsors are behind this. They're all going to be a part of it. I don't know if they're going to be coming up with any products as time goes on, but this pie could be sweetened a little bit from our sponsors. Now, something else I want to mention. You have to be a member of this page, of this group. You can't just send in your mother-in-law's name and she's not a member of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I can't make you watch the show, but I can ask that you join the group, because the whole purpose of this raffle, this giveaway, so to speak, is to help the page grow. There's no monetary gain for me in this. I just want the page to grow. I want our sponsors to get more exposure from this, and I want to bring a better show to everyone who watches here every week. Not me, no members of my family, none of the sponsors or their family members are eligible for the drawing. I just wanted to make that clear. So get me an email. You'll get a number. I'll send it back to you. We'll put it in an envelope, put it in a box. December 23rd, somebody's going to win a 1983 Honda CR 250. And I want to thank Jack Henry Lee once again for really making this possible. T-shirts are still available, $21.99. Vintage Motocross Q&A logo is on the front. Got my autograph across the back, $21.99. The details for this are in the description, in the link. You can click on that, get yourself a shirt. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. We are going to be making this a little bit bigger. Coming up in the new year, there's going to be more room on the board behind me. We're going to have more opportunities for people to get exposure on the show. Once again this week, and I posted it on the page, we hit over 20,000 people. Last week or the week before, it was 27,000. If you're on Facebook and you're a vendor, you're trying to sell stuff, there's no way you could hit 20,000 people a week without becoming a pain in the tuchus, as they say in Yiddish. But become a sponsor on the show, like Vinco, Motion Pro, Full Circle Racing, Nightmare, and Amsoil, you could be hitting over 20,000 people a week. Inbox me. I will get you a sponsorship proposal package. We'll put something together for you that fits your budget. And I want to thank all the sponsors who have been supporting us up until this point. Well, that's it. I want to thank all the viewers who tuned in tonight. Don't forget, we have that drawing coming up. Don't forget to send in the email to us. You'll get a number. We're going to be putting it in an envelope just like this. It's going to be sealed. It'll be in a clear box behind me. December 23rd, we're going to be having a drawing. Somebody's going to be winning a 1983 Honda CR 250. Once again, thank you all for watching. Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, thank you for helping me put the show together. Now, where's that little dog? Gino? Gino! Where are you, Gino? Okay. All right, Gino made it. That's the end of the show. Thanks, everybody.